We've all had that dream where something bad is happening and we're absolutely helpless to stop it, to the point where we wake up trying to scream but nothing comes out. Well, that was actually me on the night of Easter Thursday, except I was wide awake the whole time, as I said, helplessly sipping on an ice cold skewy of Great Northern. And if there's a sales rep from Great Northern listening, send me a dozen slabs and I'll do anything to give your brand a shameless free plug on the show. Where was I? Oh yeah, that's right. I was sipping on a skewy of Great Northern at my cricket club presentation night. Totally helpless as my beloved Brisbane Lions were doing what they seemed to do this year, and I was helpless to stop it. I had to be at the cricket club as I was winning a trophy, and every time I snuck a look at the AFL app on my phone, I tried to scream but couldn't emit a single sound. I wondered to myself if this was actually a sick dream and I'd eventually wake up to a different result. However, when I was presented with the award for most ducks this season, I knew it was real. And to top it off, a lady I'd been admiring had left me on red since 2 p.m. that afternoon, and I still had to find my way home and feed two hungry teenagers after presentation night finished. Life couldn't get any better than this, and it didn't. As I arrived home midway through the third quarter and switched on the idiot box, KO decided that my IINet Wi-Fi wasn't fast enough, and I cursed the Liberal government for scrimping on the NBN when they took a deal to do it cheaper. Finally, all was good with my internet provider, and the last quarter played flawlessly on my 2-metre wide TCL TV screen. But what I was witnessing was no longer a dream, it was a nightmare, and I don't even live on Elm Street. Anyway, it ended. I turned off the TV and shuddered as I unlocked my iPhone 14 Plus. Will I be confronted with controlled posting by the calm and resilient Lions fans on social media? Or would I need a bio-suit to fend off the toxicity? Alright, enough about me and my troubles. Possibly the smartest man in the world, a man who doesn't use social media other than that hub of informative information, Reddit. Al McGovern joins me to break down everything that went down in both the AFL and VFL games this weekend, and unlike me, he's not going to bring in a whole bunch of shameless free plugs to try and get some free stuff from corporations. So, here's the opening credits to soothe all of our troubled souls. All right. So, how's your weekend been going anyway?
Yeah, not bad. It's been a pretty interesting Easter weekend so far. We went to the VFL. I didn't go to the home game for the senior team, just because of work purposes and whatnot, just too busy. But I did manage to go to the VFL game, so I'll be able to give some insight to that one a bit later in the episode.
Yeah, I noticed another time you're saying that it's just down the road from where you live. So do you live on that side of Brisbane?
Yeah, so I technically live in Ipswich. I
Okay.
live about a 5-minute drive from the new stadium, so
Nice.
it works out really well. Yeah.
Nice.
I managed to. I was able to go to the first game that was ever held there, the women's grand final against Demons. Unfortunate result, but yeah, I took my daughter to that one, so that was good.
Yeah, look, you know what? What can you say about that game? It happens.
Yeah, but it's nice and convenient to go to from where I live, so I love it. It's good. It's a good venue.
Yeah, I guess it's a bit like me with as much as Geelong play there, but Cardinia Park. It's only an 11-minute drive from where I live, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of other football gets played there, not just the AFL. There's VFL. There's the under-18 comp, like the what do they even call it now? The Coates Talent League they call it now, I think.
Oh, of course. Yep.
Yeah, and there's a lot of representative football and that sort of thing as well. Like they play, again, I don't even know what they call it anymore, but the under-18s, National Carnival, they play games there sometimes as well. So, yeah, it's good to live near a pretty decent football ground, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it would be a good chance for you to see. I mean, I guess you wouldn't see the Lions play there much, but yeah, under 18s footy, like you said before. So yeah, that'd be good. Women will play there occasionally, I suppose, sometimes as well.
Yeah, we've been to one game with the women. That was ages ago. That was
it wouldn't even be once a season, I guess, would it?
2020, I'm going to say.
Mm.
And like, probably maybe 5-6 times since I've lived down here.
Yeah.
So I've been down here for 15 years this year, and I reckon 5 or 6 times I've been to watch the men play there. But there's a couple I reckon I've missed. Because we do seem to play here a lot, just being one of the smaller clubs, I guess, population-wise in Victoria.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But, I mean, look, I've been to a Geelong and Richmond game there the year Richmond won the flag in 17. So they do play some big clubs there. But, that was a boring game too, by the way. It was like watching Paul Roos coach against Ross Lyon. It was horrible. But anyway, that's who cares? It's in the past, and it wasn't one of our coaches. So anyway,
that's it.
So yeah, I watched the VFL. So I guess I watched a lot more of the VFL than I did of the AFL. I have not brought myself to watch the first half of that game yet.
Oh yeah, I don't know if it's worth it at this stage.
Yeah, I was sitting down thinking to myself, I better write some notes about what I observed, and then I ended up writing a hell of a lot more notes about the VFL and just like some dot points from the AFL. So yeah, I guess something that's popped up over the last few days publicly in the media, more so in the last 24 hours. But it's been sort of floating around footy circles for a little bit. And in particular, since, ironically, the same day that the Melbourne drug scandal broke on Tuesday or Wednesday, whichever day that was.
Yep.
And started with a little post on the Big Footy website, which is just a haven for true stories about AFL football.
Yeah, that's the Wild West for footy, isn't it?
Oh, look, it's almost like... You might as well just go down the pub, get drunk with some old bloke who's never watched the game, and ask him what he thought about the game.
Yeah, it's football 4chan basically, isn't it?
Yeah, and as always, it's like, trust me, I got it from a good source. And I think, yeah, your good source was, trust me, dude, it really happened. Yeah. But yeah, so basically, like, I guess everybody knows what the story's about. And if you don't, there's just a bit of, apparently some things happened on a footy trip to a place that our players didn't go to, but apparently our players did it. And a couple of guys allegedly got up to some mischief.
Not law-breaking mischief, by the way. We should state that.
No, it was, I guess sort of what it was more breaking moral codes than anything else, if it happened. And the names that keep getting mentioned were guys who were not even in the United States at the time. I don't know how Charlie Cameron's been dragged into it. He went to Japan for his preseason, so with his partner. So anyway, we don't know the truth. No one really knows what happened or if it happened or anything like that. And
it's definitely the meaning of hearsay, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah, you did say that to me earlier, and I like that. And the other thing too is it's kind of dying down a bit now that stuff's coming out in the open that people are looking on, and this is the easiest thing to do this day and age. Just go on Instagram, have a look at their photos, look at who they're tagging in their photos, look at who's commenting on them, and you can tell straight away. Well, yeah, that guy wasn't there. And this guy's not even dating that girl they said he was, and yeah. So look. look, it's not the end of the world.
No, and look, I'm big for people's personal lives are their personal lives. If laws weren't broken, it's we don't really need to know about it. Obviously there's the ethical side of it, and if what's happened was true, then that's a shame. But at the end of the day, that's their personal lives, and they'll work that out internally amongst themselves and between their partners and whatnot. And it's not really up to us to be involved.
Yeah, correct.
Laws were broken. If the club's going to do anything, they're going to do it internally, and we probably won't hear about it. So, it's a bit play on for me.
Yeah, and look, I'm going to put it this way: if I was in relationship problems with a partner, I don't have one, but if I did, and I have had these things happen in the past where, relationships don't go really well sometimes, and if people who had never met me in person or knew nothing about me, were talking about it publicly, I'd be pretty pissed off.
Yeah.
And I guess to top that off, I seriously doubt if me having a problem with my girlfriend or my wife or fiance or whatever is going to affect my workmates. I don't think they could really give a damn.
No, I guess that's where that's where it kind of lies. Is I don't know why it would be dragged into your workplace, but at the same time, they are public figures, so that's why the public is interested a bit more than if it was just you or I, or Joe down the road or whatever. And that's why people care a bit more. But at the same time, I don't think people have the right to know about their personal lives. I get why it's more interesting because they are celebrities, but at the same time, I'm not really interested. As long as they're decent people, they're not breaking the law, and they're not mistreating. I guess you could say what has been rumored would be mistreating, but if it was a violent mistreatment, then that would be different, and I probably would care a lot more. But yeah, I think it's a bit play on for me.
Yeah, correct. And I noticed as well today there was another one that came out. I sent a link to you about it just for research purposes. About apparently there was a dust up at the Swans between a couple of players, and one of them's not playing this week or next week or whenever it is. But I'm waiting now for an Adelaide Crows drama and a Freo Dockers drama just to complete the national wrap. We've got Melbourne, we've got Brisbane, we've got Sydney. Who's next? It's like, and I just want to say, Sam McClure. Look, and this is like, this is one of those straw polls we always seem to do with our mates. I don't know anyone who believes anything he says.
No, I mean, he's got his own podcast with Mitch Cleary, I believe. Is that right? And
no idea. I wouldn't give.
I think he does. Yeah. I don't know if it's still going, but I was vaguely aware of it a year or two ago. I don't know what their kind of listenership is, but Mitch Cleary has a bit more credibility, but I don't think McClure has much at all.
Yeah, look, Mitch Cleary used to go on to SEN every now and then back when I listened to it before it just became a 24-hour gambling service.
Yeah.
And yeah, look, he always seemed to sort of be pretty credible, and it was never scurrilous. So,
the thing I'll always remember Mitch Cleary about is how the AFL sacked him for doing his job by reporting that Trent Cotchin and his wife were breaking COVID protocols, and he got sacked for doing that.
Yeah.
And then he got pulled back, and then he ended up leaving to go to Channel 7, which I don't blame him for at all. But I'll always kind of hang it on the AFL for that, because I think that was wrong. I think they completely mistreated him for doing that, and I'll never forget that.
Yes, the old evil empire. There's like most big corporations, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind
for sure
closed doors that, they're a bit dodgy. But hey, if it wasn't for the AFL, we wouldn't be sitting here talking rubbish to each other. So,
that's exactly right.
All right. So, look, I reckon it's just, as you said as well, play on, get over it, move on. The club's been through this before with Zorko, Beams, Rockcliffe.
I think it's clear that the club is, the player base is having some issues. I think it's not that. I don't think that's what's causing it.
No, well, look, I was talking to someone today, actually. I was actually meant to be doing my shopping, but got just ended up talking footy. And because,
Naturally.
that's what happens because, I live in Australia. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And like, they're sort of like, oh, do you reckon it's affecting the players? Do you reckon it's making them play badly? And I said, you know what? In my opinion, the players are doing the same things wrong they've been doing for the last 7 years.
Yep.
And a lot of it comes down to my favourite topic of bombing the ball in long.
Yeah, it's a tried and true strategy, isn't it?
Yeah, but as well, like you got, and we'll touch on this more when we get to the actual game itself. But you put the ball on over the top of the forwards or you ping it at their feet, kicking a metre either side of them.
Mm.
Or in the case of Charlie Cameron, this happens to him a lot. They kick it right on the boundary line and make him contest the ball on the line.
Yeah.
Usually against 2 or 3 guys onto one.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when other teams get a run on our mids don't build a wall. And they don't stop the ball from pinging out of halfback, flying down into our halfback area.
Yeah.
Where our defenders have got no chance because the ball's just flying at them at a million miles an hour.
Mm.
And their game plan is based on something else.
Yeah, I mean, the strategy's shot. It's kind of a massive mess and it's all over the place at the moment. I used to be really familiar with who all the line coaches were, like, last couple of seasons, but it seems like it's a bit more unclear at the moment because Jed Adcock left and I'm not sure what Murray's doing, which line he's responsible for.
Yeah, Murray's doing the
sure
forwards.
Who's replaced Adcock and he's still doing that, is he? Okay.
Yeah, Murray's doing the forwards. I think
he was our defence coach for a lot of years. And he swapped last year.
Yeah, and I think Jed really tightened up the back 6, back 7, whatever you want to call it, last year. I thought that was the best our defensive group played probably since the Premiership era, in my opinion.
Agreed. I agree with that.
And I was not a backline player, so I don't know the quirks, but
but it's hard to argue with that. We made a grand final last year, and we haven't done that since 2004.
Yeah,
so it's the same era.
Yeah, the points against as well. So that's that thing as well. But like I guess I've completely lost my train of thought as I often do.
Well, I wonder who's replaced Adcock is kind of where I was going with that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so I think we sort of discussed it recently and thought it was Dale Morrison.
But I think he's doing VFL stuff, actually.
Don't know. I didn't see him at the VFL last week. I don't know if you saw him there today, but the other thing too is they sacked their development coach. Not the development coach, the strategy coach. End of last season.
Yes.
South Australian guy.
Yes, he was previously a Samford premiership coach, wasn't he? And then,
that's right. He coached Cornell, Mark Stone.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, he definitely left at the end of the year. So we lost 2 of our line coaches.
Yeah, that's
2 of
right.
our development coaches, I should say.
So, yeah, we've lost our strategy coach and we didn't replace him. It was the message was quite clear. Well, let's just get all of our line coaches together with our senior coach and our senior assistant and some other guys, and we'll just formulate some stuff as we go. And there's an old story about too many cooks spoiling the soup. Let's face it. It's looks like it's happening.
Yeah, look, it's I really want someone to be responsible for it.
Yes,
and it's what the current system is not working, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's not, and there seems to be a lot of confusion, and we're not the only guys saying it. It's and a lot of smart football people, and I've really sort of dragged myself out of my comfort zone and that sort of, I guess, absorbed a little bit of footy media over the last few days.
Yep.
And look, we all know most of them talk rubbish, but there's a lot of guys also who do know what they're talking about.
Yep. And
it's the same message coming from all corners. There's a lot of confusion. A lot of guys don't know what their role is. Now, I'm sure the club will come out and say, well, that's not true. We're winning all the stats. And you can win all the
stats. That's a bit of fluff, though, isn't it, from the club?
You can win all the stats you want, but there's only one stat that you need to win, and that's points for versus points against.
Yeah. So Ben Hudson is previously our ruck coach, who is now made the VFL coach.
Yep.
And his right-hand man, as of this year, and I did see him yesterday, shoulder to shoulder with Ben Hudson the entire time, is ex-Giant forward Daniel Lloyd.
Yes.
He was there, and he was right. He had a laptop in his hands, and he was with him the whole time there yesterday. So they were the two main guys I saw coaching for the VFL.
I think Daniel Lloyd's our development coach now, isn't he?
Yeah, I should probably Google that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he's definitely involved somehow. I don't know if he's the defensive coach or if he's the development coach or if he's a strategy coach or if he's doing something. But he's definitely involved in the club because he got promoted from I think either the academy or from the VFL or something like that to a bit more of a integral position.
I think initially because I think he only retired from playing last year.
Yeah, well, it's the same with the guy I just mentioned from the Giants.
Yeah, that's who I'm talking about.
Oh, sorry, I'm talking about the ex-Bulldogs player.
Oh, Dale Morris.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think he was the development coach last year.
Mm.
And I'm going to say he got promoted to be the defensive coach. And then, Daniel Lloyd got brought in and took over from him.
Yep. Oh, cool. Yep, that makes sense.
That's what I think. And you just pat away for a bit. I've got to have a drink.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just so we got Dale Morris in 2022, and his position was a bit more vague. I think he was kind of just training, having just left being a player, so he was kind of just training as being a general coach.
Yeah.
But he got promoted to an AFL assistant coach, but it doesn't say which line that he's responsible for. It just says that he's an assistant coach with, development. It just says development assistant coach. So it's kind of a bit vague. He's not really responsible for any lines. I don't think he's necessarily a strategy coach or anything like that. So, but he is involved in the senior team.
Yeah, no, look, I'm just sort of thinking like Cam Bruce is our mid coach, I think.
Mm.
So I'm going to guess Dale Morris is the defensive coach, and he was a defender as a player as well, and a really good one.
It would make sense.
Yeah, and I guess, he played under some interesting coaches, Rod Eade and Terry Wallace and
Rocket,
Bevo.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, he's got some interesting experience to bring to the club, that's for sure.
Yeah, and he also played with guys like Luke Darcy, Brad Johnson, Scott West, Rowan Smith, all those sort of really early in his career, all those guys who played in a lot of finals for them. I know Luke Darcy's a bit of a knob, but geez, he's a good footballer.
Yeah. Okay. I just found a confirmation that Dale Morris is definitely our defensive coach this year.
Yeah. All right. There you go. So look, there could be confusion that he's bringing in a different game plan to what Jed had, because I think last year it took about 3 or 4 games, for to really sort of gel.
Yeah.
So look, that's go on.
Do you think that, because I was formulating this kind of idea with my dad, that do you think Danny Daly's a bit more hands-on with the coaching than Fagan is at the moment?
I don't know if it's more than Fagan, but he's definitely a lot more hands-on than what his role on paper would suggest. Yeah,
because Fagan's on the bench and he sometimes doesn't even have headphones on. He's kind of just, it looks like he's just being a fan watching the game and riding the ups and downs, whereas it looks like God, I've just forgotten his name. Danny Daly is up in the box and he's got his headphones on, he's on the phones, and looks like he's making calls and making decisions and stuff. Yeah. Whereas Fagan looks like he's just having chat with the boys and wrapping his arm around them and kind of, riding the excitement as a fan, not so much telling people what to do and making decisions. Yeah, look, I think a lot of people sort of get caught up in the having been a footy coach as well and been around footy clubs a lot. I can say that the senior coach doesn't really do a lot of that stuff on game day.
Yeah, game day. If you go to your huddles, you go to your line coaches for pretty much 3/4 of your huddle. Yeah, and then you bunch in right at the end of just before the siren goes to come back on. You bunch in, and your senior coach he'll have someone holding up the magnet board and he'll go, all right, these are the changes, blah, 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 which they already know because their line coaches have told them. Yeah. But anyway, it's just a formality. And then it's a case of, all right, this is our message. these are the stats we're winning in, and these are the stats we need to work better in. Get out there and do it. And, that's pretty much the role they play on game day.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a bit that goes on in the rooms before the guys run out. But again,
sure. And half time they look a bit more involved as well.
Half times it's mostly line coaches again, like in the rooms. Because ultimately your line coach is the guy, he's really your captain.
Yeah.
Now every line on the ground generally has their own captain on the ground. So whilst Harris Andrews and Lockie Neal are our captains, there will be a guy who's the forwards captain. And I'm pretty sure David Noble said 1 year while he was still at the club that it was Charlie Cameron.
And, really? Well, interesting.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And like,
I guess so. I mean, Link's probably the oldest.
Yeah,
most experienced.
But so we had what Noble and Swanee have both referred to in the past as an emerging leaders group.
And
I think that was for guys sort of under a certain age.
Yeah, well, with a leadership group as big as ours, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a captain or so on every, like an unofficial captain on every line.
It's a bit Oprah Winfrey, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Look, I don't agree with Kane Corns very often, but I do agree with him on this. Just have a captain, have two if you need to, and have a vice captain. And
well, two captains, two vice captains, and 9 leadership blokes is a bit excessive. That's coming up on a third of the list or whatever. Quarter of the list.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you don't have to have a title next to your name to lead.
No. And everyone over, roughly 30 or, 10 seasons or whatever the equivalent is, usually they have that kind of mentorish role anyway.
Yeah, well, that's right. And like, me, I play cricket, and as an experienced veteran cricket player, I played with a lot of juniors in the last few years. And whilst I wasn't captain this year, I spent a lot of time working with the juniors because I'm experienced and they're not. And that happens in footy as well.
Yeah.
But just like touching on the leadership as well, and we should really get into the game, but I want to just quickly touch on the leadership. That's been put into question the last couple of days since the most recent game.
Okay.
People saying, how can we be good on the field when our leaders don't show any leadership?
Now, when you're saying that, do you mean the media or do you mean
fans? And I'm just looking at that, shaking my head. I think Harris Andrews has been in our top 3 players so far this season. Yeah. And Lockie Neal on Thursday night, Easter Thursday night, everything I've looked at suggests to me, and the half of the game I watched suggests to me that he led from the front as much as he possibly could.
Yeah.
And I have had questions over whether Harris is the real on-field leader or Lockie in the past.
I think it's pretty clear now that it is Harris.
Yeah, but look, I think on Thursday night, from what I saw, Lockie was just, as much as I don't want to praise this bloke, but Wayne Carey, led with actions, not words.
Yeah.
And I think Lockie was doing that. I don't think it was his fault that we lost.
No.
Definitely not Harris Andrews' fault either.
Look, I don't blame any particular player. I'm blaming system at the moment, really.
Yeah, definitely confusion of the system, I think.
Yeah. Like, I'm doing the crosses tonight. I'm not going to spoil it just yet, but there's no.
Hang on, aren't you doing the ticks?
Yes, I am.
I literally have my list of crosses right in front of me.
No, I am doing ticks. Apologies, but I don't have anything bad to say about any individual players tonight. It's kind of where I was leading to with that.
Yeah, fair enough. So, just I guess to start off with a chat about the game, the final team. We spoke about it on Wednesday night. I think we got the mix wrong again.
Yeah, and I think we said that on the night. We were kind of had question marks over the decisions made.
And look, Darcy Fort's the man that I guess, and it's not him specifically. It's the fact that we've picked an extra 200 centimetre guy who was clearly going to be, if he's on the ground, he's playing as a forward most of the time.
Yeah.
I think we either had to not pick him
Yeah.
or dare I say it, drop Hipwood and
Ooh.
play him.
Ooh.
I don't think we can have them both in the same team,
Oh.
unless Big O or Joey's not playing.
Are you that guy on Reddit that's always calling Hipwood to get dropped? Is that
No,
you?
no, that's no. Hey, you know how much I love Eric Hipwood.
I do, yeah. I'm
I
just
have
staring
loved
now.
him since the day he got drafted, and
Yeah,
I
I
have
know.
defended him to the point where like there's no return from how much I've defended him. But
I know. I just couldn't resist stirring you
yeah,
up.
yeah. Look, I'm not. There's a lot of people that call for him to be
No, it's
dropped.
it's
Yeah,
been heavy language this week, particularly online. I haven't seen what the media said, but I've seen what the fans are saying online, and there's a lot of people saying
yeah,
that. But we'll get to that.
yeah. And so, look, my point is that obviously Joey and Big O, first two guys picked as far as the big guys go. Well,
Mm,
and Harris.
yeah, of
So
course.
they're your first three 200 plus guys that you pick.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to pick Darcy Fort, what are you going to do? Are you going to drop Hipwood
Mm.
or are you going to drop Big O? You're not dropping Big O. I don't think you should drop Hipwood either because,
No, I don't think he
yeah,
should either. Look, I like Ford a lot. I rate him as a player. I just didn't think he was a necessary inclusion
yeah,
for that game.
it was a puzzling inclusion.
Yeah, and we said
Yeah,
so when we were, when the team dropped when we did our last episode that we were a bit, ooh, because we had, we gave ticks to the other replacements and
yeah,
inclusions and stuff, but that was the one where I certainly had a question mark, and I think you did as well on that
yeah.
one.
I did, and the more I sort of thought about it, and the more I thought, and I said to you on Thursday, I think, and I never say this ever, I think we're
Mm,
going to lose tonight because we've got the
mm.
balance of selection wrong.
Yeah, it didn't look good early, did it?
No, and yeah, and again, our favouriteest of most favouritest topics, Loman.
Mm.
Where did he start the game?
So it was a bit hard for me to tell actually because I was pretty wrapped up in the game, but I just remember seeing him. I think it was just the last quarter. I don't think he played the full
Yeah.
second half. I could be
So
wrong on that. Someone's probably yelling, listening, and saying that I'm wrong, but I
I will
only
tell
remember
you,
seeing him in the last quarter.
he played 26 minutes of the game,
Okay.
and I was getting messages all night, and I wasn't watching the first half, and I
Yeah.
was getting messages all night, especially during the first half. Oh, any chance Loman can get on the ground?
Yeah.
All right, so uh, I'm going to get my nerd on here.
Hmm.
So, in Loman's entire career of 11 AFL games,
Yes.
he has spent the following amount of time on the ground in each game: 83 minutes, 28 minutes, 92 minutes, 59 minutes, 20 minutes, 12 minutes, 86 minutes, 24 minutes, 45 minutes, 51 minutes, 26 minutes, for an average of 47.8 minutes per game. He has
Yeah.
never played a full game.
Jeez. Not even his first game? Because that
No,
sounded
his
like it was. Yeah. No,
first
that's
game
not even a full
he
game.
played 83 minutes. I think he got injured in his first game though, didn't he? Or was that
Yeah, you could be right there. I think he's
like
been injured a couple of times.
an ankle or something?
Yeah.
But like he's averaging less than half of game time across his entire career.
And he gets torn to shreds online for not doing enough, but
Yeah,
he doesn't get given enough opportunity.
like someone wrote a big paragraph in a Facebook post on the weekend that he's not up to AFL level, and I'm thinking, well, how would you know? It's not
Yeah,
on the ground long enough to find out.
yeah. And I mean, a bit of a spoiler alert for our VFL chat later. Loman was best on ground in our VFL.
Oh, I think everyone
So,
knows that by now.
so, so I would really like to see, and I've been hammering this since the first episode that I was on this. I want to see him play not as the sub, and I want to see him play a full few blocks, like a block of games in a row,
Yeah,
because he's up, he can do it. He just needs more of a chance. It's hard when you get brought on for a quarter, and then it's like, right, well, give it everything you've got right now. Like,
but
it's harder to do that.
the other thing with that is he's not playing the same role every time. He's just coming on and going, and they're going, all right, well, Connor McKenna's injured. You need to go
Yeah,
run down at half back, a position you've never practiced in.
yeah.
Or
Now you're a winger.
Jack Gunston's old and he's getting a bit sore in the back. Go and beat a full forward and leading
Yeah,
at the goal square.
yeah.
Or
Playing the wing.
the wing. Like, yeah, we're going to rest Archie for some stupid reason because I mean we all know he should be on the ground for 120 minutes. But
Yeah. We know you're a crafty small forward that we drafted you as, and you kick 4 or 5 goals in the VFL every week. But how do you go as a rebounding defender today for 25 minutes?
Yeah, that's right. And it's like, well, just put the guy in his position.
Yeah.
Give him a run of full game time. I know he's going to go to the bench every now and then. That's football. But yeah.
And like I said to you last week, because one of the things that I was worried about was because, he got what we thought was an injury last VFL game.
Yeah.
We were both going, well, geez, I hope he, is laid out for a bit of a rest or something like that. Like, give him a week. Look, he did look fine, but they did make him the sub again, which we were worried that they would do.
And then he played the full VFL game, didn't he?
Yeah. So he played a quarter for the seniors and then four full quarters, a full match for the VFL.
Yeah.
So in a 24-hour period, he played 5 quarters of footy.
Yeah,
and pretty well.
Yeah, especially in the last quarter, he was dominant.
Yep.
He looked a level above everyone else. But we'll get to the VFL. So I guess I'll leave it to you to give a bit of a wrap up of the AFL game.
Yeah, so I was not pessimistic for most of the game. I thought that there was a chance of a comeback until about the last 10 minutes, I think, for the whole game. It didn't look good early, and I wasn't super optimistic coming into the game. I did think that we would probably win. My prediction was that we'd win by under a goal. But something just didn't feel right in the lead up to the game, and we didn't look on early. We had some good patches, and we had a good quarter. We kind of came back a little bit, but then they just kind of overran us again.
Yeah,
not the greatest game.
We led at half time by a couple of points, didn't we?
Yeah, so that's when I was kind of I didn't even feel confident then, to be honest. It was good to have that, but it wasn't a huge lead, and none of the boys looked happy or confident the entire game. When like you kick a couple in a row and the boys are all smiling and high-fiving each other.
Yeah.
The songs are blaring in the gabber, and it's you can feel like they're on here. It never felt that way. They always looked worried. They always looked down and not happy, not with it. So it never felt me with confidence for the game.
Even the crowd felt flat to me.
Yep.
And look, I've noticed this for a while. It's hard to tell for me when I go to games down here because we're the away team every single time.
Sure.
So unless we're playing North Melbourne, we're always outnumbered. But when I watch Gabba games, I always feel if we're playing one of the so-called Big Four Victorian clubs, it feels like they've got more supporters in the ground. But also, like, and I tried to defend our supporters a lot because there was a lot of chat on the internet about how quiet they are. But like, I'm starting to sort of notice they are pretty quiet. So I don't know if it's the.
I think it's just this year, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of our poor start. So I was a member for quite a few years in a row. I stopped last year just for a number of reasons that I won't get into. But I did go to a few games last year. I haven't been to a game yet, but I'm booked in to go to the Geelong home game just before Anzac Day. So that'll be interesting. I'll be able to give you the in-ground perspective for that one.
Yeah.
But last year, and last couple of years, when we've been doing quite well, it's been incredibly loud. It's always hard when we're versing teams like Carlton and Collingwood because they've always got a big fan base wherever they're being played.
Yeah, there's a lot of Victorians living up on the Gold Coast, for example.
Definitely. But when Charlie Cameron's on at the Gabba and Country Roads is playing and the whole crowd's singing, there's nothing like it. You can't replicate that anywhere else. And
no.
There's you can't feel that in the rugby. Like there's, and even when a team's on and Collingwood's on at the MCG and things like that, it's just not the same.
No, and that Port Adelaide final last year, I think it was, where the crowd was still singing the song, and he kicked another goal, and it just kept going on and on.
Yep, I
Was
was
that?
there with that one. I
Yeah,
was there when that happened, and the song was still playing from his first goal at
yeah.
the center bounce, and the song stopped as the center bounce happened, and
Okay,
the crowd was still singing. So it didn't
yeah,
even sound like the music had stopped, but the music did stop. The crowd was still going,
yeah,
and then the ball went out straight away, and it got into I think Link's hands, and then it went straight into Charlie's hands, and then he went straight in, and then the song started back up. The crowd never stopped singing that entire time.
yeah. That was
It was
amazing.
incredible.
And look, I've been sent videos by some friends who sit in different sections of the Gabba of them and their friends making some massive noise. So
Mm,
no criticism of Queensland fans at all.
mm.
I'm not saying that they're not making noise. And I can tell you, there was a lot of criticism coming our way at the grand final that our people felt our cheer squad wasn't loud enough.
Yeah, but that's always a bit unfair because grand
Yeah.
finals are a whole different kettle of fish because you got more corporates there than you have fans
Well,
for either
not only
team.
that, but you're playing against the most supported football club possibly in the world. I mean, let's face it. I know the Swans reckon they got more supporters than everyone else, but that's crap.
Yeah, no.
No, Collingwood are huge. Like I've lived in WA, SA, NT, Tassie, and Victoria, and Collingwood is number
Man,
one.
I've been everywhere, man. You're the bloody song incarnated.
Hey, I haven't lived anywhere north of the Victorian border, so
Mm.
but I have been to places. But yeah, look, moved around a bit. Uh, running from something, don't know what it was,
Mm.
but something. Um, but yeah, look, Collingwood and Essendon, to me, to be honest, always been the two big teams ever I've been.
Yeah.
And like Collingwood as well, like in Adelaide as well. Collingwood, Port Adelaide, same. So they're always pretty well supported there and whatever. But yeah, so we're always up against it on grand final day. We had the Lions chant going at one stage, and then Collingwood supporters just took over,
Yeah.
and you got probably 80,000 people supporting that one team. You're not going to yeah, out loud them, whatever.
Yeah, like I'm never going to give you guys a hard time because
Yeah,
it's grand final day. Like finals is a bit different because it's a bit more of a mix, but
yeah,
it's on grand final day. It's so corporate and it's so I don't know. It feels a little artificial with how little fans are there and how many media guys and their sons and their mates are all given tickets and you know company bosses and stuff get boxes and it just feels like I don't know the soul's kind of gone a little bit from grand final day.
yeah. And there's so many people wearing brand new Collingwood jumpers. Some of them
Yeah,
with the
tags hanging out the back.
yes, and 35 on the back. It was so funny. I was just going to go, yeah, I guess, it's probably us in 2019 with a lot of number 9 jumpers getting around. But yeah, just having a look. Port Adelaide and Melbourne at 45 apiece. Late, just a minute before half time. Jack Vardy's 200th game, so Melbourne obviously lifting for that.
Mm.
It
Where is
would
it?
be,
Is it in Melbourne or is it in?
no, it's Adelaide.
Okay,
Well, yeah, I'm assuming because,
I'll back Port for that one. Just
yeah, I think they'll get over the line in the end, but geez, it'd be good to see them lose over there. And
yeah.
I guess Melbourne have got a bit of motivation to play for as well with not only Jack Viney's 200th game, but
Mm.
the other stuff. So, yeah, all right. Well, anyway, back to our game.
Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Well, I think I've pretty much wrapped that up. I watched to the final siren. I turned it off just before the song started playing because I can't stand hearing that song.
Yeah.
There's a lot of songs that I don't mind, and I do like some of the older clubs songs, but I'll turn it off for the Collingwood song. But yeah, it's look, what else is there to say about that one? It was a disappointing game, and it's a bit more of the same that we've seen for the last couple of weeks. It's something's the boys look lost. They look wouldn't say they look scared, but they look confused and they look disheartened. And look, I'm not going to go doom and gloom. We've only lost 3 games.
Yeah.
We're only 3 games in, even though it's round 4 with the whole bye and everything like that. There's still a big season to go. I don't know if we're going to have as successful as the season as we had last year, but to write the whole season off after 3 losses is a bit silly in my books because there's just so many rounds left.
Yeah.
So I'm not doom and gloom yet. but I am a realist, and I understand that it makes things difficult for the
And
games ahead.
the other thing a lot of people sort of overlook is that other clubs improve.
Mm.
Sydney have kept improving. Now, as the season goes on, we'll see how much they've improved. But the Giants, obviously, Adam Kingsley is really harnessing something that Leon Cameron couldn't.
Yeah.
They're improving. I think Geelong's a better team this year than they were last year.
Yeah.
St Kilda and Essendon seem to be improving year on year. And the other thing too, when you're the premier or the runner-up, you get hunted because everybody knows you were the team that won the most or second most games of the year.
Yeah.
And look, when Richmond did it in 17, everyone copied their game style.
Yeah.
And when, like maybe not the Eagles, but like the Bulldogs in 16, that fast run off half back, which was their trademark. What did everyone do? Went and recruited midfielders and put them down a half back, and we were the club that were flying the flag for that.
And I think pretty much every team since, every runner-up since about 2017 grand final, bar Geelong, have all fallen down the ladder the next year. Some have come back up again, some haven't come back up again, but it rattles them, and it's not just us that it's happened to. I mean, you remember the fall off that the Crows had. I mean, the Crows were looking like they were going to be a dynasty. They were smashing us by 80 points a game at that stage.
They were kicking 120 plus nearly every week.
Yeah, they looked unstoppable, and then Richmond destroyed them, and then they have never been the same since.
Yeah, Eddie Betts was kicking 80 goals a year as a small forward. Taylor Walker was kicking 60. Josh Jenkins was kicking 40 or 50.
Some teams it just rattles some teams, and obviously there was some off-field stuff, the infamous camp and stuff for the Crows, but that was the year after. Like that was that was 2018.
And look at the Giants as well. They kicked 3 goals in the grand final, and took them a long time to come back.
Oh yeah, they only just started to come back up again last year.
Yeah, and change of coaching, I guess a change of personnel on field as well, and the Giants. Look, this is something that a lot of people say about our club. There's a lot of guys, and we've said it ourselves in recent weeks, there's a lot of guys that came in when we didn't have any sort of real sort of guns or stars. We had Dane Beams and Dane Zorko. That was kind of about it. Stephen Martin. And then, we had a lot of, Ryan Bastanak, Mitch Robinson, Josh Walker, sort of tradesmen like footballers. So guys like Hugh McCluggage, Jared Berry, Alex Witherden, Eric Hipwood, dare I say it, Josh Shackey, Harris Andrews, who probably debuted before his time, but he lived up to it. James Aish, when we had him, all those guys were probably debuting before their time, and never got dropped. Cam Rayner. And the Giants had that too. Giants, remember, they started out with a team full of 17-year-olds.
Yeah.
And those guys went 10 years without being dropped. And then they, got to a grand final, fell off the perch because suddenly they realised, hey, we haven't really made these guys hungry enough.
Yeah. One thing that it's not Lions related, but one thing that has annoyed me is, everyone was talking about how Collingwood was so fantastic last year because they won the flag and all that sort of stuff. Good on them. But the commentary around, they finished 17th, 2 years before that. And it's like, hang on, they weren't cellar dwellers. They were in a grand final the year before that.
Yeah, correct. And
so they were playing finals, and then they dropped down to second last one year. And then next year they went back to finals flag. Yep. So that 17th was the oddity. They didn't rise from the ashes. They just had a really shitty year.
Yeah, they dropped down to 17th in a COVID year when they were in a hub. Yeah. And also
when they didn't get to play at the MCG very often.
Well, they didn't. They probably only had to travel from some resort next to whatever the Gold Coast Stadium's called these days. People First, I think it's called now. They probably had to drive.
They had to get passports for that bus trip, didn't they?
Yeah, it was probably like 10 minutes instead of 5. But that was, but like, yeah, that was a COVID year. They're in hubs. Their coach was burnt out, didn't want to coach anymore. Their
Yeah,
senior coach, some of their assistants really didn't want to do it anymore either. They were burnt out.
yeah,
So finishing 17th wasn't personnel. It was, I guess, just the fact that, yeah, that year being in the COVID hubs didn't work for them.
yeah.
Same thing happened to the Eagles. You know,
Mm,
they won a premiership, and then 2 years later they're fallen down the perch because they're not adjusting to the COVID hub.
yeah.
Whereas younger teams like St Kilda thrived,
Mm,
and Freo thrived as well. Didn't really affect our guys because they didn't leave their home city, but
yeah,
well, they went to Cairns once, didn't they?
yeah, yeah. They did.
That's
They got
for
to Kazali
yeah,
a couple of times.
that's further away from Brisbane than what Melbourne is from Brisbane. That always
Oh
spins me
yeah,
out. That freaks me out every time I
Queensland's
think
a
about it.
massive state. I mean, not as big as WA, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's massive. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, I love the talk about they're basically alluding to Collingwood was basically North Melbourne. You know, like they
yeah.
went through a 1 year rebuild and then they were back in finals again. Who would have thought?
Yeah, well, Melbourne did it. Melbourne got absolutely destroyed in that 2018
That's
prelim.
that's right. Yeah.
Like, I watched that game, and that game was over 5 minutes in to the first
Mm.
quarter. Like, the Eagles just blew them off the park,
Oh
and
yeah, I
and
remember that
then
one.
the next year Melbourne won 4 games.
Yeah.
Or maybe it might have been 3 games, and one of the games they won was against the Swans, who finished below them on the ladder.
Mm.
Yeah, who they were also having a drop off year themselves, but the Swans won out of that by getting in Errol Goulden and Logan McDonald and all those guys. So
Yeah, and
uh,
that's why I'm not doom and gloom. One, we're only 4 rounds in. We played 3 games. Even if it turns out that it's going to be a crap year, I don't think it will be in the long run. But even if it is, we have so much young talent on the list, and even more coming through this year's draft.
yeah,
That it's we're not guaranteed to win flags just because of talent, but we're not going to be a bottom 14.
no, it's an overall package deal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the future looks so bright with how much talent we have, and getting onto the VFL a bit later, there's so many promising guys coming through there as well.
yeah, there is, and like just the guys we drafted last year, for example, we've talked
Yeah.
about that a fair bit. But Tunstall, and
Mm,
I've got some things all positive too that I want to say about
that's good.
Tunstall when we talk about the VFL. But yeah, so is there anything else relevant to the AFL game that you
No,
want to?
I think that's it, man. I think we'll wrap that one up apart from our, ticks and
Yeah,
crosses
ticks
and
and
whatnot.
crosses. So yeah, all right. Well, I'll let you go first. Actually, so I do actually want to bring up something else. I've got it in my notes here.
Mm,
I brought in obviously about bombing it in. This is bombing it down the line and that sort of stuff. The
yeah.
fans questioning the leadership. We touched on that.
Hmm.
So I guess how do we approach this? So Fagan's coaching. We've talked about it a little bit.
Mm.
What's your thoughts on the message he's putting out in the press conferences?
Um, could you just quickly remind me what that is?
So
Because
a
I've
lot,
watched a couple of them, but they're long.
yeah,
They're about 10 minutes each. And he says a
yeah.
lot.
A lot of the messaging is, look, everything's okay. That's what we've been saying. Like, yeah,
Mm,
look, it's not as bad as it looks. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. But a lot of it's about, well, we're winning the stats, we're winning this, we're winning that.
yeah.
Do you want him to get angry? Do you want him to fire up, or are you happy with that?
No, look, I'm not super happy about it because he's always kind of been like that.
Yeah,
I would like him to show a bit more passion, but he's always been very like, no, everything's fine. Like, you guys are making a mountain out of a molehill kind of thing. But it's getting to a point now where it seriously needs to be addressed. Like, it's not doom and gloom, and I don't want him to come out and say that, the end is nigh and all that sort of stuff. But he does need to take things a bit more seriously than I think he is. I think he's kind of just like, yeah, everything's all right. It'll work itself out. Don't worry about it. Like, it's cool, man. The stats say we're winning. And it's like, well, we're not winning, Chris. Like, come on.
yeah,
Like, I love Chris, but, I do wish he would show a bit more passion sometimes.
yeah. And
And
look,
be a bit more realist.
I think I'm looking for a bit of a happy medium between the. Yeah, I do want him to be positive, absolutely, because I know as a coach myself, when
Mm.
I've done it, I've always tried to be super positive about everything,
Yeah.
every player on the ground and whatever. But you want him to address the areas where we are falling down.
Yeah.
But as fans, and I mean, yeah, we're sitting here talking about football on a podcast, but at the end of the day, we're fans. I'm
Yeah.
still a member. You're not anymore, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
We've been fans of this football club all of our lives. For me, going back to the '70s when I was born,
Yeah.
showing my age there, but like my family goes back a lot of generations, and yours goes back a few as well.
Yeah.
Whether it's Fitzroy or the Bears, so we
Yeah.
are fans. We are real diehard fans. We do want to hear honesty.
Yep.
And I think that's what we want. So I wanted to touch, I did remember a couple of things else I wanted to touch on. So,
Yeah, sure.
Firstly, Jordan DeGoey, you're a dickhead, mate.
Yeah.
He got down on his knees and went headfirst into one of our guys' legs.
Yep.
He didn't get the free kick, and he whinged about it for about 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Kept following the umpire around, saying to him, "But I got hit in the head." Shut
Yeah.
up, mate. You didn't. You ducked. You got on.
There was another incident in the first half, which you would have missed, where he elbowed Dev Robertson in the head, and Dev went to the ground, and he had the ball, and he ran off, and a goal was scored, and no free kick to us.
Yeah, well, that brings me to my next thing. So the umpire interpretations and mostly holding the ball. Now, I've been reliably informed by both Collingwood and Brisbane supporters that there were a couple that went against Collingwood early and a couple that went against us early. But I reckon possibly in the third or early in the fourth quarter, I saw in a row there was one in the middle where one of our guys had no prior at all. He just got grabbed straight away.
Yep.
Holding the ball. Then the ball went probably not much long after that, went to Rayner. He touched it with a fingertip, got grabbed when he wasn't really in possession, holding the ball.
Yep.
And then that one with Jamie Elliott and Zorko. Now, I mean, Zorko took 2 steps, but it's touch and go on that one. But like, probably could have gone either way. But you've given a team, a free shot at goal. I probably would have just balled that one.
Yeah, look, I'm not one to complain about umpires much because, it's just such a cliche Nuffy fan thing.
Yeah.
Like, the umpires are always against us, but the umpiring wasn't the best last night. I don't usually complain about umpires, and it's not something you're going to hear from me every week because I don't really do it very often.
No,
but every once in a while, there is a game where it's noticeably bad, and it was noticeably bad.
And look, I don't think it's the umpire's fault. Like, I could never umpire a game of football. I've umpired cricket, and that's hard enough, and that's a slower moving game.
Yeah,
you've got to make split-second decisions. It's super hard. But what the problem, in my opinion, is the interpretation is too open for them.
Yeah,
and it's too confusing. And that's the AFL. That's on. I don't even know who the head of coaching is anymore. It used to be Brad Scott, obviously, but he's not doing it now because he's a coach. But it just seems to be the umpires are so confused by these interpretations, these grey areas.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I'm not sure if there's anything that's been said about it, but the Pendlebury on Neil whack. I don't know if there's been an outcome of that.
That has been talked about.
Something happened with that
ad nauseum on the footy media, on the online sort of.
I knew it would get talked about a lot within the media and with the fans, but has there been any MRO?
He got a fine.
Oh.
Look, I'm okay with it. I don't think it deserves a suspension. Had he punched him with a clenched fist, I think yes. I just hate punching in football. I reckon it's just.
I think anything intentional off the ball is completely unnecessary, and there's no excuse to whack someone on the stomach, clenched fist or open slap. either
Yeah.
way.
So
I don't know. I would have given him a week. That was a bit.
well, look, the counter attack from the Collingwood fans is, oh, well, you don't know what Neil was doing to him beforehand. Well, if we don't know, how do you know?
Yeah, and that's
you were
the
watching the
game,
same
though.
game, and
if he was saying stuff to him, that's the game. You know?
yeah. But the other thing is, then they've said, oh, and Neil was acting. He took a dive. Oh,
I don't know. If you get hit in the right spot, it'll take the wind out of you.
If you get whacked, like, so he's what, 175 centimeters, and Pendlebury's probably in the low to mid 190s, I reckon. Yeah. He's a big boy, and I've stood next to him. He's a big boy. Someone that size hits you in the solar plexus, you're going down.
Yeah.
100%. That's gonna.
I don't think there was any diving there at all. I mean, we do have players that do. I think we do have some players that do dive. Reece Maxson was notorious for it. Joe is a bit questionable with his push in the back sometimes.
Joe
when you get whacked in the stomach, I mean, that's...
Joe got punished for it, and he's sort of been a lot better since.
He has, yeah. He hasn't. But there was some really...
Yeah, so there's been, a couple of agendas from the Collingwood fans, but you know what? You're always going to back your guy in, aren't you? Pendlebury's played about 4,000 games for him, so you've got to expect them to back him in. All right. And one other thing. So BT commentating, oh, God, we bring it up all the time, but there was a Collingwood player had a shot at goal. Can't remember who it was. It's clearly bounced off the post and gone back into play. And BT spent 30 seconds going on about, oh, he's nailed it. It's there. It's a goal. How good is this? What a ripper goal. And you could hear the icy silence from the other commentators.
Yeah.
And you could feel for them that they would have been looking at it and going, what the hell are you talking about, mate?
Yeah. I think all fans have turned on BT in recent times. And he doesn't feel loved by anyone, not even Collingwood fans anymore.
No, not even. Like, he played for Richmond and they hate him too. So, I was listening to a game on the Triple M yesterday when I was in the car, because I mean, I live in a regional city. It's not a village; it's a city. But very few radio stations work down here. It's puzzling. But Triple M was working, so I was like, all right, I'll listen to Triple M. And Mark Howard and Brian Taylor commentating, and for about 10 minutes, I didn't know that the game was still on. I thought it was half-time because all BT did was talk about his playing days at Paran after he retired from Collingwood.
Yeah, he loves to chat about himself, doesn't he?
Yeah, like it was like dead set, mate. Just give it a spell. And the other one, now, so you watched the Thursday night game. Was it Abby Holmes? Was she on, or was it someone else?
Great question. I was watching on KO, so
but
whenever they would do the interviews and stuff, they usually went to the
talking
Fox
about
crew.
Like the
especially like the boundary rider.
Boundary rider, that's what the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, I believe it was her, but BT didn't really give her much chance to talk. So she doesn't even hear from her very much.
So it was Dev Robb who got subbed off, wasn't it?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So when that happens, she's gone, Dylan Robinson has just come off for Brisbane and Kai Lohmann's on. Dylan Robinson. Like, come on.
We don't have any Dylans or any Robinsons anymore.
Yeah, we've had a lot of Robbos in our time, but yeah.
Dev was having a bit of a mare, though. I wasn't surprised that he was the one that got turned off. That got taken off. He had some shocking turnovers in the first half. Yeah, so it didn't really surprise me.
I think he may or may not get another mention soon. All right, so I guess you want to just jump into the ticks and crosses.
Yeah, let's. I don't have a huge amount of ticks, but I do have some. So I'll start with those if that's all right with you.
Well, you're gonna have 5, so if you've got 4, you got to make one up.
Jeez. Okay.
So yeah, all right, you go. Yeah, all right, you go first, so we'll see what you've got.
Well, my first tick is, and it's kind of a triple tick. No injuries. We didn't get any fresh injuries, which is great.
Yep.
Because we've had some horrific. I mean, we had a day in the lead up to the game, but I wouldn't count that because it didn't happen during the game.
No, that's right.
But we've had some horrific luck in the last couple of weeks, and we've lost some key players. So the fact that we didn't lose any guys in this game, that's a big tick for me.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, and look, it goes for any game. You don't want guys, especially important guys, getting injured, and we have lost some really important guys. So, yeah, that's a massive tick for me as well.
Yep. And the next tick is, we had, I thought, some better passages of play than we had in previous weeks, because we mainly gave up for big chunks of the game in the last couple of games. But this game, it was a bit back and forth. Like, we gave up a couple in a row, but then we kind of come back for a few. It felt like the boys cared a lot more in this game than they did, say, in the Carlton game, in the Freo game, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
They didn't look as lethargic as they had in previous games. So,
but even in the Carlton game, it's not like, I mean, they only lost by a point, and they were still in it. Like in the final 30 seconds of the game, they had their chances. So, and even the Freo game, like at the end, they sort of came home with a bit of a wet sail. But yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying. No, I felt like from what I watched, they were always having a crack.
Yeah, it felt like they were always having a crack, and they genuinely cared about what happened.
Yeah.
But the skills were a little off. Like, there was a lot of balls bouncing off guys' chests and things like that instead of marks. So it looked like the effort was there, but the skill was a little off. So whereas the last two games, the Freo and the Carlton game, it seemed like they didn't really care for periods of time where they just kind of were doing witch hat sort of stuff and just sitting out there. I didn't get that vibe for this game. I felt like Collingwood had some lucky bounces and things like that. It was an unfortunate game, but it didn't feel like there was as like they were lacking effort like they did in the last one. So that's a tick. The effort was a bit higher this week, I should summarize.
Yeah, I got that vibe as well. And like you said, the skill level let them down. Especially going inside forward 50, that's something we've addressed a lot, and we will again, I feel, unfortunately.
Yeah, and another tick is that I liked the cohesion of this team a little bit more than some previous weeks. I still think Fort In was a bit of a questionable move. I wouldn't have done that myself, but all the other ins were a great in, and they all slotted in perfectly, and I felt like there was a lot more connection in the team tonight than there was in the last couple of weeks. So that's a tick for me.
Yep.
And I don't really have too many more. The big thing for me was that there was no injuries. That was kind of a tick and a tick for me. But I don't have many more positives. I guess it wasn't a huge blowout in the end, like it looked like it was going to be at one stage. The fact that I was still thinking we're a chance until about the last 10 minutes of the game is a better sign than the previous weeks. Because there was definitely more fight, and there was the effort was there. Because in previous games, there was only a couple of guys I could mention that really didn't give up the entire game. It felt like pretty much the whole team didn't give up this entire game this round, so that's a big tick.
Yep. All right. So that's all you got?
Yeah, I couldn't come up with too many more, to be honest, for that game.
Yep. All right.
We'll see how the next few games go with the ticks and crosses.
Yeah. Well, so the first cross is me. I had a shocker. I had to go to something else that I had to go to. I couldn't miss it.
Yep.
I was being awarded a trophy. It wasn't a good trophy.
Life gets in the way, mate.
But not only that, there was some other things that when this episode comes out and you listen to the start of it, you'll find out there's some other things that didn't go my way that day. And that led into watching my team lose a game of football.
Yep.
Topped off my night perfectly. So, I'll give myself a cross. My next one is one we've already brought up, was the selection of Darcy Fort.
Yeah.
I just think that they got that wrong.
Yeah, it has to be across that one.
Yeah. And next one again is another thing we brought up was Loman as the sub. Again,
Yeah.
they just got it wrong, in my opinion.
Yep. I think
Um,
there's a lot of people that would agree with you on that one as well.
yeah, you either get him on the ground at the start of the game, or you pick someone else.
Yeah.
Like it's got to be sending a really bad message to the poor guy. Like
Well, it's a
he's
bad message to him, but it's also really bad for his football development. I mean, he did
yeah
play a full VFL game, but most of the time that he's the sub, he's not playing full VFL games. So he's not getting a run in his legs. He's not getting a chance to, you know, develop as much as he would if he was playing full games either way.
yeah, and
So,
it's sort of confusion that we've spoken about of what is his role? Does he know?
hmm,
Is there the right messaging getting to him about this is what we expect of you? This is what we want you to do in this game. Well, it changes from week to week. From an outsider's point of view, now we don't know the
yeah,
conversations. So yeah. So anyway, I won't harp on about that too much more. My next one is, I guess, it's sort of an overall thing. Is Devon Robertson, not Dylan Robertson?
yeah,
I feel Dylan Robinson had a shocker.
yep.
It was the first time I've ever heard of him. He went to the bench. But look, Dev Robertson, I've had high hopes for him for a long time. And when
You and me
people,
both, mate.
yeah, when people were shooting him down, I was just like, look, yeah, okay, his disposal needs a bit of work. But other than that, his effort is really solid and strong. I don't feel that I can say that about his effort this season.
Hmm.
Now, it's been said by many that he had a tagging role in the second half or the last quarter against Freo. On TV, you don't know that. You can't see it.
No,
Unless the commentators are constantly referring to it, which
sometimes
they,
it's more subtle than
yeah.
others.
So I'll take that on face value that, yeah, he probably did, but that wasn't for a full game. And for the rest of the game, he didn't do much. And this game, from what I saw, he wasn't really working hard. Now, we don't know what his level of fitness is because he missed a lot of preseason with the wrist injury,
That's correct.
which,
Yeah, he was one of the guys
yeah,
in rehab through much of the preseason.
yeah, because he played in the grand final with that injury and I think some of the other
Hmm.
finals. So, and it took him until a week before the first game to actually get that right. So,
Yeah, he was
he's,
touch and go for the first game.
yeah, so he's clearly, look, he's clearly not going to be as fit as the guys who did a full preseason. And that's not on him. He was injured. There's not much you can do.
Yep.
I think he had a couple of surgeries. Definitely had one lot of surgery, maybe two,
Hmm.
maybe more.
Yeah, Barry had his annual shoulder surgery.
Yeah. Look, as a bloke with glass shoulders myself, I feel for him. But yeah, like Barry, Jacob Wiedering, Tom Rockcliffe, myself,
Yeah,
the foremost glass shouldered
the
blokes in the world.
quartet.
Chris Judd as well.
Yeah,
But
yeah, true that.
none of those guys are Chris Judd, other than Chris Judd, of course. But so, yeah, I think Dev's at a bit of a crossroads at the moment as to
Yeah,
is he ready to be taking on a midfield or a high half forward role in the senior team, or should he be getting his fitness back in the VFL, or even just not at all, just take a couple of weeks, Jack Gunston style, to just say, all right, look, I need to go do, get some miles in my legs,
mm.
running up and down. I don't know what is there to run on in Ipswich apart from the oval.
uh, Run from the fleece, I guess maybe.
I hear that happens a lot
Does
around
happen a
there.
lot in Ipswich.
Yeah, I've watched a few YouTube videos here and there, but yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I've been a big Dev Robertson fan. I'm a big Kai Lohman fan as well. So they're both kind of at a crossroads. I mean, they're both a bit too good for the VFL, but haven't shown much in the senior team. Kai's a bit of a different case because he hasn't really been given much of a chance because he only gets a quarter or two a week, but he's always the sub. I think that they should rotate who the sub is, and they shouldn't just make it you're the dedicated sub guy because it really affects the development of that player and probably their confidence as well.
Yeah,
So I think I would probably, I don't know if I would drop Dev, but I'd maybe make him the sub and bring Kai into the team. They're not really the same kind of player, but you can shift some guys around maybe. But they're
Yeah.
both too good to be in the VFL team.
Yeah. Look, and that's the thing. You've said this before. Like some of these guys are way too good to be reserves players,
Yeah.
but they're still developing as senior players.
Yep.
But they need to have that support and
Mm.
they need to have that right messaging from the people above them in the coaching staff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how many games has Dev Robertson played? Let me just quickly look that up while you.
Yeah, you look it up because my phone is across the other side of the room.
That's all right. I'll look it up while you keep going.
Yeah, so look, my other cross, and it's not a cross on the bloke himself, because I've already said how much I love him, and I actually have a big cutout of him in my. I'm not allowed to call it a man cave in my cave.
Yeah.
Because I have a daughter who's claimed half of the cave for herself.
Of course.
So it's just a cave.
Yes.
And I have met Eric many times, and he is an amazing guy. But Eric Hipwood, are we playing him in the wrong position? And the media, funnily enough, brought this up today as well. He was, as a junior, he was a wingman. He had elite speed. He was like, what's that guy at Essendon that's 200 centimetres and plays on the wing? Nick Cox, I think, maybe.
Not too familiar with their team these days, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. I watched their game. Well, I didn't watch it. I listened to their game today. But, yeah, like, I feel like when he got drafted, they've gone, well, we've got no tall guys in the forward arc. Let's just chuck Eric Hipwood in there. Shaki was a full forward, centre forward as a junior, fair enough. Yeah. I've always felt that Eric's not a key forward. And in his early years, he used to run up the wings, down a half back, and then back up to half forward. His sprint efforts and repeat sprint efforts there was a lot of them, and they were huge. And he had elite speed. And people criticise him and say he can't take a contested mark, but it's not really his thing. I mean, I think there's an expectation that because he's 200 plus centimetres, he has to be this big beast who clunks them and smashes packs and whatever. I don't think that's his go. I really think I think he's more of a wingman running player, and we kind of have, I guess, some confusion about who our wingers are anyway, other than Jasper Fletcher. I mean, Barry's not really playing there much anymore.
No, and McCluggage isn't really a winger either. Because remember, it was Mitch Robinson and McCluggage for a while, but that's not the case. Obviously, Robinson's gone, but McCluggage isn't really a winger anymore either.
So, what's the harm in saying, all right, well, hey, we'll keep Darcy Ford in. We'll chuck Hipwood up on a wing.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it was either last week or the week before, a lot of people kind of assume because of how many goals Hipwood kicks, that he's supposed to be a Jonathan Brown, and it's like, why isn't he come on? Why isn't he twice as big as he is, and why isn't he as good as Jonathan Brown was? And the truth is, it's because he's not the same body type. He's not the same guy. He's never going to be, and he was never meant to be the next Jonathan Brown.
And you know what? When Jonathan Brown was playing before, he absolutely, and it took him a good 4 or 5 years to really achieve what he achieved.
Oh yeah, he wasn't a walk-in star.
And I used to sit there at games and they'd be like, he's no Bernie Quinlan. I'll tell you what, I watched Bernie Quinlan play. No one was Bernie Quinlan. He would still be a star now, but he's no Wayne Carey or he's no this. And I feel people, like you said, people sort of have that same attitude to Eric Hipwood.
God, I wouldn't want anyone on our list to be Wayne Carey.
As a footballer, maybe, but yeah.
Yeah. I think I'd just stay away from someone like that just altogether.
You're starting to sound like Jason Ackermanis, and he got in trouble for saying that.
Hey, I'll wear it. I'll wear it just like Acker would.
Yeah, absolutely. I agreed with him too. But yeah, look, Eric's field kicking is really, really good. And it's funny, like Joe Danaher as well. His field kicking is really good.
Yes.
And like people go on and they can't kick. Like they'll hit a teammate lace out. They actually, I think when they go inside 50, they deliver the ball better than what the mids do.
Oh yeah,
Both of those
I don't know if
guys.
a lot of people are criticizing their kicking. The kicking's pretty good. It's
Yeah.
the marking that's a bit off at the moment, but Joe's usually pretty good. Um,
I
Hipwood's usually not too bad either. He's not fantastic. Like he's never going to be a star,
no.
a contested marker, or even above his head or whatnot, chest marker head, above head.
Yeah.
But he just, yeah, I don't know. Like he's too good to not be in the team,
Yeah, that's
in
right.
my view.
And that's what I've sort of been saying. Like, I don't want to drop him,
No.
but if they're going to persist with Darcy Fort, maybe play Fort as a forward. Joe's got to pinch hit in the ruck too. Like Joe cannot be not rucking at some point, and chuck Eric up on a wing or somewhere.
Nah, well, you know what's going to happen with selection next week, and I'm not sure if we might touch on that a bit later, but they're going to do what they always do. We didn't get any injured players. They're going to have to make a change. They're going to take the last guy that was brought into the team out of the team because that's what they always do. So Fort's going to get dropped because he was the last guy brought in, and they're going to bring in. Geez, I don't know. There's no injured players coming back. That'll be interesting to see who they replace. But I think that they'll drop him, and that'll be it. And nothing will change with any of the established players. I can't see any of them being dropped.
Yeah, yeah, and look, that's a big bugbear of our fans at the moment, and that takes me back to what I was saying before when I brought up the Giants. Like that took them to realize, well, some of you guys need to be dropped or traded for you to realize that you've got to be hungry and
Yeah.
And yeah, so look again, like that wasn't a cross on Eric Hipwood himself. It was more on the use of Eric Hipwood.
Mm.
Yeah.
So what would you do? If you were Fagan? What would you do with Fagan with Hipwood next week?
I'd just give him a run on the wing.
So you change his position.
I would have had him playing on the wing from the time he arrived at the club.
Okay.
And you know, when he arrived at the club, him and Cedric Cox were the two fastest runners with foot speed till Charlie Cameron came along.
Oh yeah.
And Cedric Cox was put down in the back line. Eric was shoved down as a key forward. And you know, I would have just put them on one on each wing, and said, you know, sprint until you can't sprint anymore.
Yeah, I mean, look, why not experiment with it?
Yeah. What have we got to lose?
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know who the wingers are for North Melbourne. We do play North next game, don't we?
Oh, yeah, we do. There's
I don't know
a bit
who,
to talk about with that one.
Yeah, I don't know who their wingers are these days, but I'm sure if you line up on a wing and there's a 204 centimetre guy who can kick the ball 60 metres standing next to you, you're going to think twice about the way you play the game.
Yeah.
And your running patterns and that as well.
Yeah, no, that's going to be an interesting game. Are we doing a preview of that later?
Yeah, probably. So, yeah, I guess we'll just wrap up the AFL game with players of the week. And I want you to go first because I can't decide between two guys at the moment.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see because we haven't spoken about who we thought was, the best player.
Yeah.
And mine is, look, I could have done the easy one and done Kalachi like I have for every other week because once again, he was one of our best because he never gave up and he was just always in amongst everything and he had a few great passages where he made stuff happen or he denied stuff from happening for the Pies. It wasn't him though. My guy this week is our ex-captain Dane Zorko.
Yeah,
he was involved in a lot. He has looked like he's wound the clock back about 5 years.
Yeah,
and he is having a fantastic start to the season. And he makes some simple mistakes sometimes, as Zorko does, and he gets hot-headed and whatnot. But he is my player of the week for the AFL because I feel like he had the most direct impact, and he felt like he really cared about what was happening the most out of all of the guys out there.
Yeah, look, look, every week I look at him and just go, like, this bloke he bleeds maroon, blue, and gold. He maroon, gold, and blue.
Oh, definitely. I mean, yeah. I know he's not popular externally, and there's a kind of a mixed internal opinion of him as well. But he, like you said, he genuinely cares about the club. He's very loyal to the club. And I think he's going to be on rolling 1-year contracts for the next at least 2 or 3 seasons. Like,
Yeah.
if he keeps up to playing the way he is now, he's not going anywhere anytime soon.
I think when Dane eventually does retire, I will tell the story of my personal dealings with him, and that will explain why I love him so much as a bloke. No, it's a really good story.
What a tease!
Yeah, I know, I know, but it's a pretty long story. And myself and one of my best footy mates, we just absolutely have had the best dealings with him, like you would not believe.
You'll have to tell me off air, maybe.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, we'll see. All right, so my player of the week, and just from what I watched, and the reason why I'm picking this bloke, he wasn't our leading possession getter. He was one off, but that's not why. I just think the way Hugh McCluggage delivers the ball to the forwards, he's one of the only guys that hits a lace out. He kicks it flat, straight, direct.
Oh, he's a beautiful kick, isn't he?
When no one else is doing that, and that's costing us games, to see him actually doing it, it's a great thing, and I love it. And I feel like this year, excuse me, I ate way too much Easter chocolate today already.
That's so good. I will put a caveat. When I said he is a beautiful kick, he is a beautiful field kick.
He is.
His goal kicking is.
His goal kicking this year, I think,
it's
is
improved. But it's not a strength of his.
Yeah, but like in the past, you'd see him have a shot for goal. You'd be like, "Oh my god, I can't look." But
I would always write him off when he's lining up for goal.
But yeah, like just and again, like I feel he also this year knows now what his job is. But he's also taken to being a leader really well. Like, I reckon the first year he got into the leadership group, that was the first year we had about 11 guys.
Yeah.
And he got on the front foot in the media and he explained exactly why there were so many guys and why he was in the leadership group. And that also coincided with him suddenly being a top 3 best and fairest player of the year.
Yeah, well, he got brought into the leadership group quite early. Like, he was only like 22 or 21 or 22 or something like that.
That's right. And, you know, like he's hitting those peak years. And one of the things he said after the grand final too, the following day was, he said, blokes like myself at my age and the guys who got drafted around me, we haven't even hit the start of our peak yet.
Yeah.
We are coming into our best football years now. And I reckon he's starting to mature that way.
Yeah.
And I think in all 3 games this year that we've played and what I've watched, he has shown that leadership when it's been needed.
Yeah. And Huey's one of those guys where I love him on the field as a player, but I think I love him off the field as probably even slightly more than that, to be honest.
Yeah, he's such a country
he's just
boy, isn't
he? Yeah, he's just a genuine good fella with a good heart.
Yeah.
And I've got nothing but good things to say about him. And I think he, there's the whole controversy of the contract. Will he go? Will he stay? I think he stays, and I think he's honestly a future captain of the club.
Yeah, and when you ask any of the new players, and like it's always a standard question for me, are the boys looking after you? Every one of them straight away, yeah, Huey's been great.
Yep.
And,
definitely.
He's the first name mentioned every single time. And then Archie gets a mention too, which I love because I love him and you love him. And
true. We're almost the fan cast for Cal Archie, aren't we?
Yeah. So I guess speaking of Cal Archie, he's now on the leaderboard for the player of the week. We both picked him last game, and I picked him in the first game. No, we didn't both pick him last week, did we? Last game, I picked Joey. So
yeah, I picked him for the first 2 games, but I went Zorko this time.
Yeah, so he's up there with whatever 3 or 4 votes. Joey, Zorko, and McCluggage all with 1. So I'll actually make up a proper tally of that.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, I
keep track of that one.
I put that in my notes and then I forgot to do it. So. Yeah. So, all right, we'll finish up on that positive note, and I'll put this one out. Hopefully, this one will be out Sunday night, and probably Monday or Tuesday, I'll have the recruiting review out. I've already finished editing that, and
Really?
yeah, and I haven't even sent it to you yet, but I've made a new logo for us as well.
Ooh, okay. I'm excited.
Yeah, I reckon it looks a little bit more dynamic. I had a bit of help from my 13-year-old, so and I'm trying to get her to work on getting us on TikTok, but
Ooh, yeah. Got to get the teenagers up for that, mate. I'm too old for that one.
yeah, she is in charge of the TikTok account for my history podcast, but she hasn't done anything with it yet. So
She's our social media manager.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's it. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your Easter,
You too, mate.
and
And we'll preview the North Melbourne game sometime next week, maybe.
yeah, well, it'll be good too because we'll have a couple of days up our sleeve to get that out. The selection chat and that as well. We won't be rushing to get it out with 24 hours notice. So
Yeah, although it's an earlier game. It's Friday at 4:10 p.m. for some reason.
yeah, so usually Friday games they announce the teams Wednesday.
Yeah, but I've never seen one start at 4:10 p.m. on just a regular day because it's not a public holiday next Friday.
Yeah, so is that 4:10 local time or 4:10 your time?
I believe that's our time.
So,
Good question. But even if it's 5, that's still quite early.
yeah. So yeah, look, I'm usually finished work by about 3 o'clock on a Friday. So that's 3 o'clock my time, 2 o'clock your time.
So it's 4:10 AST, which I believe is your time, Eastern Standard.
We are ADST at the moment.
Oh, okay, so maybe it's my time. So it's
Yeah.
5 p.m. your time, 4 p.m.
Yeah.
my time.
So yeah, I'll actually just hang on a sec. Let me bring it up. I've managed to sneak my phone over while we were talking.
And I actually despise gambling, but the betting odds are $1.13 us and $6.05 for North, even despite the fact that we haven't won a game yet.
Yeah, so it says 5:10 p.m. my time on the AFL app,
Okay.
and yeah, like I don't know if I really want to criticize other people, but you won't have any gambling ads on this podcast at any
No.
point in time or any gambling sponsored
Nope.
segments. So
Hate it. Absolutely hate gambling.
we'll just leave it at that.
Yep.
All right. I will talk to you during the week.
Sounds good, mate. Enjoy the
No
rest of your
worries.
Easter.
Yeah, you too. And
See you, Ash.
yeah, no worries. See you later.
Bye, mate.